evening, everybody. Bonsoir tout le monde. Merci d'être avec nous ce soir. Thank you for being here. Je peux avoir quelqu'un pour proposer l'ouverture de la séance, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'ouvrir la séance.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Small-Penny Father. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît?
Oui.
Oui.
Parfait, merci. On est ce soir ici et il nous manque la conseillère Fini qui est hors Montréal. Councillor Fini is not with us this evening. She's out of town. L'adoption de l'ordre du jour, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'adopter l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du lundi 25 avril 2022 tel qu'est présenté.
Merci, la conseillère Small-Penny Father. Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Hewlin. Excuse. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît?
Oui.
Merci. Approbation des procès verbaux.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'approuver les procès-verbaux des séances du conseil tenues aux dates suivantes. Séance ordinaire du 28 mars 2022. Séance spéciale du 7 avril 2022.
Merci, la conseillère Hewlin. Je peux voir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui. Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît?
Oui.
Merci. We're going to go right to report of the mayor. Good evening, bonsoir à tous. Welcome to our regular council meeting. Bienvenue à notre réunion ordinaire du conseil. As I tell everybody now that we're functioning in a bit of a hybrid mode, our first question period, we will answer questions from the floor for a maximum of 25 minutes. We will limit it to 2 questions per person, a short preamble, your first question, and a follow-up question if you want. And I will remind you that it is a question period and not a debate period. After questions from the floor, we'll answer questions from residents that may have been submitted online until 2 p.m. today on any topic. The same rule applies, 25 minutes total and 2 questions per person maximum. In the second question period, towards the end of the meeting, we will take questions pertaining to the agenda submitted via our website during this meeting. We will limit it to 10 minutes from the floor and 10 minutes for online. Lors de notre première période de questions, nous répondrons aux questions de la salle pendant un maximum de 25 minutes. Nous le limiterons à 2 questions par personne, une courte préambule, votre première question et une question de suivi si vous le souhaitez. Et je vous rappelle que c'est une période de questions et non une période de débat. Après les questions de la salle, nous répondrons aux questions des résidents qui avaient été soumis en ligne aujourd'hui jusqu'à 14 heures, sur n'importe quel sujet. Les mêmes règles s'appliquent. 25 minutes au total, 2 questions maximum par personne. Lors de la deuxième période de questions, nous répondrons aux questions relatives à l'ordre du jour soumis via notre site web lors de cette réunion. Nous le limiterons à 10 minutes depuis la salle et 10 minutes pour l'online. As I mentioned in my article last month, we've begun the consultation phase of the development for our new sports and recreation center. We held 2 formal public consultations with regard to this project. The event was published on our website and via our social networks. It was open to all residents and they were invited to register for the event. The event was guided by a professional facilitator to help us ensure we derived the most information and feedback about the project. After a word of welcome and introductions, the facilitator went over the agenda for the evening. I took the time in both sessions to present the overall view as it currently stands, with including preliminary sketches, and currently defined rooms and uses and of a general view of the first phase of the project. We then took time to answer questions about the sketches and project. The next portion of the evening was devoted to 3 different workshops, during which we broke down into smaller breakout rooms and discussed, among other topics, the type of programming they would like to see evolving from this new complex, the reasons why they may have not participated in recreation activities in the past, positives and negatives on the sketches that they were presented with, and their overall perceptions of the project. Each breakout room was animated by a council member and notes were taken by another council member. The small size of the groups allowed a very clear forum for participants to share their impressions and concerns, and their feedback was clearly noted. After each of the workshops, we returned to the larger group and a resident chosen during the breakout session summarized the discussions we had undertaken in the breakout rooms. The quality and variety of feedback went above and beyond our expectations. The participants raised some very good points and some very valid concerns. Many of the concerns had already been addressed in meetings held by the steering committee, and the rest of the concerns and suggestions will be summarized in a report at the end of the consultation phase. That's the end of my report. Please continue to stay safe, stay vigilant, and stay healthy. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to move on to councillors' reports. We're going to start with seat number 4. Councillor Torres will report on matters pertaining to urban planning and the environment.
Thank you. Good evening, bonsoir à tous et bienvenue. Since my last report on March 25th, PAC has held 3 meetings, on April 6th and on the 20th, to review residents' applications. On these 2 occasions, PAC reviewed a total of 21 applications. On April 13th, a special PAC meeting was held where the Sports and Recreation Center project was presented. Members of PAC had the opportunity to review the project, ask questions to the architects, and make suggestions. I would like to thank the PAC members, all the PAC members that were present, for their valuable input and points of view. Since March 25th up to today, 15 permits have been issued. These include permits for fences, decks, excavation, renovations, etc. The next PAC meeting will be held on March 4th and on May 25th, 2022. Please remember that the deadline to submit complete files to PAC is 2 weeks prior to the meetings. We would like to remind all residents wishing to obtain a permit from the Urban Planning Department that due to COVID-19 situation, the department is still operating solely online and that you can make the permit application via the town's website. Last, I would like to inform you that we have received an important number of permit applications in the last couple of weeks. Therefore, the delays for issuing permits might take a little bit longer than usual. That's all for me tonight. If you have any questions or suggestions, please do not hesitate to contact me at your convenience. Merci et bonne soirée.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres, and thank you for keeping your report short. I really appreciate those.
You're welcome.
Reporting from seat number 1 on matters pertaining to public security, Councillor Lauren Small-Pennefather.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bonsoir à tous et à tous. Welcome this evening. We're going to start off with street sweeping this evening. Parking restrictions have resumed as of April the 1st. During the first 2 weeks of April, the PSOs distributed courtesy notices to any vehicles parked on streets that have no parking restrictions to allow the street sweepers to complete their tasks. We do this every April to help remind vehicle owners, since these restrictions are seasonal and in effect between April 1st and November the 15th. After the initial warning period, vehicles can be subject to a $44 fine. The PSOs received a few more vacant home surveillance requests this past March and April as more people have begun traveling again, and the PSOs have been keeping an eye on these few properties. The PSOs also assisted Public Works by conducting traffic on Westminster for an emergency road repair on Millionaire and Westminster on Sunday, April the 3rd, and on Monday, April the 4th, for repaving that repaired that area. Lastly, Public Works and Public Security will be meeting with the line painting road marking contractor this week in order to begin street line painting as soon as possible. PS coordinates with Public Works every year, and especially to arrange one-night closures of our town parking lots in order to have the lines painted. And just wanted to bring to your attention a few incidents that occurred in the town. On April the 6th, you may have heard, if you were on Valentine and Sherbrooke, around 2 a.m. there was a vehicle collision with a hydro pole which was sectioned in half. The driver actually fled the scene of the accident. It was apprehended by the police shortly thereafter. And police had suspected that the driver was intoxicated. Several residents lost power and hydro was called for emergency repairs, and for those who were registered, the code red system was used. As well, I would just remind everyone to continue to please be vigilant with their vehicles, ensuring that they're locked when not in use, to avoid anybody entering your vehicle and taking any personal items. And we will leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. Reporting from seat number 2 on matters pertaining to Public Works and Communication and the Environment, Councillor Elizabeth Hewlin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, all. Bonsoir à tous. Public Works has been working hard to address the potholes that have appeared all around town with an early spring thaw. Priority work on roads and sidewalks will continue throughout the month of May and into the summer. Additionally, our crews will be working in the town parks and green spaces as soon as weather permits in early May. They've already installed the swings in the playgrounds, as many parents have requested. Some dog owners have inquired as to why the temporary dog run at Hodgson's was closed this month at the same time as the permanent one by Town Hall. This all has to do with the rehabilitation of these two areas after the winter. April's the ideal time to install grass and repair any damage to the earth, and this is essential to maintain the soccer field at Hodgson's and the permanent dog run near Town Hall. As a dog owner myself, I know it can be very frustrating not to have an off-leash space to socialize our dogs and ourselves, but honestly, it's absolutely necessary to strategically close these spaces for a time to ensure their long-term viability. Moving on to tree planting, residents that have a suitable location on the public right-of-way in front of their homes have been contacted for the spring public tree planting. If you received a letter about this, I hope you took the time to select your preferred tree species. The deadline for that choice was Friday, April 22nd, and the trees will be planted in late May. This month, after the spring thaw, you probably noticed a section of Westminster right here in front of the town hall became unstable. It was the responsibility of the Eastern developer who had excavated the area to ensure the roadway was secure, but it wasn't, and Public Works made a temporary fix. But on Friday, just a few days ago, it was repaired by the Eastern contractor, and we'll certainly keep an eye on that space to make sure the roadway is kept secure. Lastly, the town flowers will be planted shortly, and I'm excited to announce that we'll be planting a special pollinator garden near the town hall this year with species that specifically attract monarch butterflies and other pollinators. This was a project that was initiated by the Environmental Action Committee last year. Speaking of the Environment Committee, we held our first meeting of this mandate on March 29th and spent a good deal of time going over the draft of our town's first waste management policy document. This document outlines many actions the town may take over the next few years to sharply reduce the amount of waste we send to landfill. I'll have more to report on this at our next public council meeting. And finally, the town's communication department has been particularly busy this month organizing the public consultations for the new rec center, which the mayor spoke of just a moment ago. They were truly a big success. Still to come will be a consultation with the various groups who will be the highest users of the center, a town-wide survey, and a special meeting with residents of Bedbrook and the surrounding streets who will be most impacted by the work. I'd like to thank all those who participated so far in our consultations, and in particular our communications manager, Elizabeth Roy, for crafting such a fruitful consultation process. And if you have any questions for me, you can certainly ask them during the second question period or contact me by email. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. And reporting, even though Councillor Feeney's not here this evening, she has sent along a report that she wants me to read for her. So I'm going to read that. Good evening, and thanks to Mayor Masella for presenting my report. First, in finance, the second installment of the property tax is due May 26th. We recommend that you pay electronically. The town hall service counter is open Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The financial statements for 2021, which will be deposited later on the agenda, were completed and reviewed by the external auditor. The results were very strong, showing a surplus of $827,000. This mainly due to additional revenue in 3 areas. Duties on transfer from the sales of homes was $622,000 over budget. This, of course, was due to a particularly strong housing market with more sales and housing prices increasing 15%. Revenue from permits was $100,000 over budget due to many home renovations undertaken by residents. Government transfers were $122,000 over budget, thanks to a grant reimbursing the town for salaries of employees assigned to duties related to COVID. Net debt at year-end 2021 is $13.3 million, down from $14.3 million in 2020, and this despite a capital investment of over $3 million. Further detail will be provided in my communique report in the next Informer, and financial statements will be posted on the website by May 15th. I would like to thank our treasurer, Valentina Todoran, for all her hard work in preparing statements and for her careful management of the town's finances, which has led to such excellent results. Disbursements for this month totaled $667,000. The main expenditures included $314,000 in capital expenditures for road infrastructure on Fenwick, $123,000 for employee benefits and deductions at source, $35,000 for garbage, recycling, and compost, and $22,000 for snow removal. In recreation, upcoming special events include our first Tuesday evening in the park on June 7th, which will be a community night and art in the park. Only Montreal-West artists can submit work, and the deadline is May 20th. This artist participation form can be found online, or you can contact the Recreation Center. At the Community Center, spring programs for children and adults have started, but there is still some room in some programs. Go to Amelia online to check availability. As well, go to Amelia for summer registration for camp, community center programs, tennis camp, and fitness. For adults, there will be a Red Cross emergency first aid and CPR course on Saturday, April 30th. Sign up on Amelia or at the community center. The arena is shut down for winter activities and is being converted to summer and spring activities, with summer maintenance and inspections going on in May. The pool has been drained and cleaned, the pool has been drained and cleaning has begun for a pool opening on June 4th. Program and memberships are available on the town website, with a return of a full slate of activities and programs. The fall schedule will be available in early May for the various swim times. Interviews are ongoing for camp counselors as we look to fill our job openings for the summer. Interested candidates can still apply for positions via the town website. Spots are still available for camp for certain age groups, as well as a few weeks for tennis camp. In-person activities for seniors began with a welcome back tea party on April 20th. On May 11th at 1 p.m., Bruno Stenson will be speaking about the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Call the community center to sign up. The next foot clinic is Wednesday, May 4th. The MATA committee met this month to set priorities for this and upcoming years. A delegate from the committee was chosen to represent the group at the local roundtable consultation on the Sports and Recreation Center. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can email me directly at cfeeney@montreal-west.ca. So that's the end of Councillor Feeney's reports. We'll now move to our first question period. So we're going to take questions from the floor first. I'm going to ask you to keep your mask on. Step up to the microphone over there. State your name and your address, and you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, hello. Abby Shivitz, 138 Valentine North. I don't think so. Yes, Abby Shivitz, 138 Valentine North. My first question that I would like to ask has to do with the amendment to Bill 96 that's been in the news a lot, that will impact greatly, I believe, our community and the people that would be going to English CEGEPs. As we know, that the amendment deals with requiring 3 core courses in French for English CEGEP students. And the government has, as the Gazette has recently reported, the government is willing to drop this amendment, which would impact a lot of people, if there's a more forceful outcry from the English-speaking community. In addition, the Gazette also reported that the Director General of Vanier College said if the English community comes together to rally, and that would include CEGEPs, Parents Association, community groups, that would make a difference. My question is this council willing to do the following, to perhaps issue a resolution against the amendment, to make a public statement against the amendment, and at the very least to stand with EPCA, which is the English Parents Committee Association, for the upcoming rally against this amendment, which will be announced publicly tomorrow, and that is going to be occurring in the next couple of weeks in May. And as a second part, just Mr. Mayor, will you, in your capacity as president of the Association of Suburban Municipalities, be able to coordinate with your counterparts to make a statement and to take a stand against this amendment that will have a lot of consequences in terms of impacting the ability of of kids to pursue the kind of future they want in university, and for those who can't handle studying in French because of language or intellectual difficulties. We need to act, and I think that this is something that many residents are very concerned with. So that is my first question.
That's your
Thank
first question? That's your
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a
No
multi-part.
problem. No problem.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
to answer like the part of the questions that you've already asked, council is now discussing putting out some kind of a resolution that we can all get behind. So that's something we'll discuss and we'll try and formulate. In terms of what the town has done already, or what the town can do, actually no, in terms of what the ASM has done, we've been very, very clear, and I've been the spokesperson for the ASM on that. We deposited a memoir at the parliamentary hearings. I actually appeared before the parliamentary hearings and answered questions. We actually, when they came out with some other amendments that more directly affected the municipalities, again, we sent a letter. We got in touch with Minister Jolin Barrett's office, and we did as much media as we could to try and get the point across. In terms of the ASM, we've been very reluctant to go outside anything that deals directly with municipal. We've tried to stay that we're a municipal organization, and we've tried to stay there. That being said, we are taking part tomorrow, as the town of Montreal-West, we're taking part tomorrow in the QCGN press conference. We're not active members as such, but they know that Montreal-West is among the people supporting the work of QCGN, which is doing a more broad approach to the problems that Bill 96 is imposing upon us. So that's where we stand right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we stand right now. In terms of other people and other organizations, I apologize, I hadn't heard of this other organization. EPCA, you called it?
And I think they will also be at that press conference tomorrow.
Okay.
But the English Parents Committee Association, and apparently they have received the most contact from many very concerned parents about how
Sure.
this amendment will impact their children's
Sure.
education.
And that's, you know what, like I said, of my personal opinion, you wanna talk about putting in something like that, but give it a window when you're imposing it. Don't, give it a window 4 years down the line. Okay, in 4 years, that's what we're gonna be doing. But it's hard to say we're gonna put this in and by next year it's gonna be in place. There's so many things that are unreasonable about Bill 96 and about these amendments that are trying to go through, and it's really a dog's breakfast on the amount of work that needs to be done to try and change that. I don't think, again, in my personal opinion, I don't think anything's going to change on it. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I don't think anything's going to change. Anyway, you're asking.
Okay.
Go ahead and
Yes.
ask your second question.
Yes, the second question has to do with the upcoming project for the rec center.
Yes.
It was reported in the Informer that the pool would be closed for possibly 2 summers as of next summer, 2023 and 2024. And I wanted to ask if the council has thought or would be willing to approach Côte Saint-Luc to make some kind of an arrangement for residents to have access to the outdoor pool in the summer, since we won't have one for 2 summers, at perhaps a preferential rate, because I know that we do participate in activities at some type of preferential rate with Côte Saint-Luc.
So first off, it's hard to say whether it's going to be 1 season or 2.
Okay.
It all depends when the work starts, Abby. So
Okay.
It's hard to say, but you're right. It will be closed at least 1. And actually, even though Councillor Feeney's not here, maybe Councillor Yulin, as she held a portfolio for quite a while, she may be able to answer some of the modalities that already exist.
Well, I'll try. 16 years, so. Well, we have negotiated agreements with Côte Saint-Luc and Hampstead on a number of issues, recreation issues. And certainly that we'll do whatever we can to make sure that people have a place to swim in the summer. And if we can make some sort of we'll have to talk about it as a council, but it was definitely on our radar that we're going to need to have other places for people to go for the recreation that they currently have now when that project is under construction. But as the mayor says, it's a kind of a ballpark to say when it's going to what years it's going to happen. So when we get closer to the date, we'll start having those conversations with other municipalities.
Okay, that's great.
Thanks for the
very
question. It
much.
was a very good one.
Thank you very much for your questions. Sir, did you have a question? Please, just step up to the microphone.
Actually, I make the step if there's black coffee.
Meet you, Mr. Soden.
Yes.
There you go. Okay, good.
There you go.
You can just leave them here. We'll take care of them, Mr. Soden. We'll distribute them.
Thank you.
All right. Very short. It has to do with the intersection right out here.
Mr. Soden, can you state your name and your address for the record?
Sure, for
please?
the record, Robert Soden, S-O-D-E-N, 26 Easton Avenue, Montreal-West. Okay. I submitted the question online.
Right.
There was no place to submit the sketches, hence my bringing them, but I did go to another site and I submitted this.
Right.
When you submitted them there, I found out there was a way to do it. It's simply for months now, I've been feeling that the westbound Avon Road should have 2 lanes west and 1 lane east. Right now, it's 1 lane west, 2 lanes east. And just as Easton or Westminster has 2 lanes south, 1 lane north, because in the southbound lanes, the left lane turns left or goes straight, and the right lane turns right. For the uphill or eastbound Avon, I believe, in my opinion, the left lane of the 2 upbound should be turning left, and the right lane should be for going down Bryn Mawr or going east.
And that's the way it is right now. Coming up the hill, there's 2 lanes. One, the lane on the right goes straight or turns onto Bryn Mawr, and the lane on the left is to make the left onto Westminster.
Okay. Well, that's excellent to hear, except there's no markings, but I understand we're...
Well, we're in the middle of the contract now.
That's
Yeah.
totally reasonable.
Yeah.
But yet, when you look at Avon to the east of Westminster, there is only 1 lane. Everybody, buses and everybody is in 1 lane going west. And if there's only 1 lane coming up from Avon, as you just said, that goes straight, the left lane turns left.
Right.
The right lane turns right on Bryn Mawr or goes straight. So there's only 1 lane of traffic. So why are we giving them 2 lanes? Because there are 3 lanes there. It's a little bit tight, and I don't know why the trailers couldn't have been a little bit on the sidewalk. Might be an engineering question because I see they're excavating kind of close there. And maybe the jerseys, as they're called, and the concrete barriers could be pushed in a bit. But I believe you could have 3 lanes, and because you really need 2 lanes going west. If I come here, coming west from Cavendish or whatever, and I want to go to my home on Easton, you're piling into this 1 lane.
Right.
And there are people that are going down the hill, there are people that are going north, there are people that are turning to Bryn Mawr. There should be 2 westbound lanes, 1 eastbound lane. That's
Okay.
so I put that in a statement. My question is, can this not be?
Okay, and that's something now. So what I was going to answer to you, I was going to answer to you during when we read the questions, and I won't read it now because you're asking it now.
Okay.
So what we're going to say, because we've just received this, we're going to pass this on to our public security people and our building people to see if there's some way that we can look at the mitigation measures that have been put in place now, like you're mentioning, the jerseys, the trailer, all that stuff. See if there's something we can do to mitigate the problem that you're raising right now.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
a fair comment you're making, and it's just we just can't give you an answer tonight.
Fair enough.
So now that you have this, we had actually received it.
Okay.
Now we'll pass it on to see if there's some way that we could mitigate the problems that you're raising right here.
Right. That
Okay, so
1
I don't have a
lane is
clear
just
answer for
all
you tonight,
jammed up.
Mr. Soden.
Okay.
All right? Thank you very much for your question. Thank you. All right, so that's it for in terms of the questions of the people in the room. So we're going to move on now to the questions that were asked online today. So the first question comes from Domenica Puccini, 24 Ronald Drive. Good evening, Ronald Drive and Brock Land. The piece of land next to the church parking lot and the bicycle path is not being maintained. It is full of garbage items. I believe this belongs to the town of Montreal-West and would need to be maintained. Thank you. Councillor Yulin?
Yes, thank you very much, Dominica, for your question. We've got photos now of that area, and you're quite right. It definitely needs to be maintained. Often what happens is when the snow melts, we see what's there, and obviously it's not very pleasant. So Public Works will be alerted to this, and we'll get on the case shortly. But thanks very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin, and thank you for your question, Domenica Puccini. Next question comes from Donna McLaughlin, 156 Ballantyne South. First question, the lighting on Ballantyne South Brock South, and Courtney Drive is very dim and scary at night when walking home or walking a dog. Lampposts have never been upgraded here like uptown, perhaps even changing bulbs to brighter halogens. And second question, permanent dog park at new arena complex for those who live above the tracks. Elizabeth, can you answer the first question? I'll take the second one.
Sure. Thanks very much for your question, Donna. When we redo the streets, we also redo the lighting. That's the time when that would be done. And I know that Courtney is on the short list for getting redone, but Brock South and Brock and Ballantyne South are not. So when Courtney gets done, the lighting will be reviewed. We're also doing a lighting master plan for the entire town to look at how different streets are lit, and that will give us some insight as to how those two streets, Ballantyne and Brock South, well, frankly, 3, Courtney, should be lit. So I can't say that Ballantyne and Brock South are going to get new lighting anytime soon. If there's any problem with the lighting, we can look into that. But in terms of new lighting, that's not really in the cards for those two areas in the near future. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. In terms of your second question about a permanent dog park on the Hodgson Field, basically, near the new arena complex. So that's something that won't take place in the first phase, but that's something that'll be evaluated in subsequent phases. The way we took our time and did our due diligence when we developed the dog park over here, and let's be honest, we haven't had any complaints about the dog park over here. We want to take the same time to make sure that we find an appropriate space up in that area over there, if it's on Hodgson or somewhere near there, to handle the needs of the people over there. So Donna, it won't be in the first phase, but that's something we're looking at subsequent phases. So thank you very much for your questions. Next question comes from Aubrey Marchand, 164 Brock North. How many council members live in a home with lead in their tap water? And when will the town plan road and pipe replacement for the 2 remaining blocks of Brock North? So in terms to answer the first question, Aubrey, I live on Wolseley and Councillor Feeney lives on Wolseley, and there's a possibility that there's lead on our street. I'm fairly certain the water entrance was changed in my house, but I've never had it tested. I know all my plumbing's new on the inside. I can't speak for Councillor Feeney, but that's where we stand. I think everybody else lives on streets that have been redone lately. Councillor Feeney, Councillor Yulin, I'm sorry, can you answer the next part in terms of when will Brock be reconfigured or rebuilt, excuse me?
Well, so Brock North is not on the immediate list to be redone. So that's when at least the city side of the pipes would be pulled up and renewed. So honestly, I can't let you know when Brock North those remaining blocks on Brock North will be done. Every year we do a new plan to see which streets are in the most dire need of reconstruction. And currently Brock North, those blocks on Brock North are not on that list for the immediate future. But, you know, as with everything in the town, we go at it one step at a time. We will be looking at possible mitigation strategies for people who may have not had streets redone and may have lead, but that's something that we're currently discussing. Thanks very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. And thank you for your questions, Aubrey Marchand. Next question comes from Andre Chenier, 430 Hudson Avenue. Mr. Mayor, in regards to the sports center, we are the highest tax municipality on the island of Montreal. My taxes are double that of the same valued home in NDG. I am convinced that the majority of the 1,567 taxpayers in our town are not aware that we cannot afford this project, and over 50% of the cost will be on borrowed funds at the expense of maintenance of our streets. Please hold a referendum. Mr. Chenier, over 50% of the residents that answered a survey back then said that they were willing to undertake a certain cost because they know that the existing state of our buildings is just decrepit. And if it means shutting down our building and removing recreation altogether, that's for us is not really an option at all. And I'm sure if we were to redo the survey today with the influx of young families that are coming into the city, they would all be more in favor of the project. And right now, almost the majority, I would say probably more than 50% of the costs of the project will probably be covered between fundraising and grants and things along those lines. So I don't agree with your saying that people aren't aware or people would not be in favor. Thank you for your questions, Mr. Chenier. Next question comes from Sylvia Gervais, 164 Wolseley Avenue North. Which streets will be fully repaired this summer? Councillor Yulin, please.
Certainly. Thank you for your question, Sylvia. This summer, no streets will be fully repaired, or no streets will have their infrastructure fully redone. The next street on the list to be redone is Avon, between Westminster and NDG. And what we'll do this summer will be the preliminary work for that project. As you know, the Easton development is happening now, and that's a very, very big project, the Avon segment. So we're doing all the preparations this year for hopefully the work to be done next year. Thanks very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. And just to add something to that, Mr. Gervais, the work that's being planned for that section of Avon that Councillor Yulin was referring to is a very, very big job. One of the main sewer collectors goes underneath that section of road, and that road work needs to be coordinated with the City of Montreal. So that's a whole other level of complexity. So we're trying to do all of our work ahead of time, do as much of the work as we can ahead of time so that when it comes time, we're ready to go. So that's the work that Councillor Yulin was referring to that's being done this summer. Thank you for your question, Sylvia Gervais. Next question comes from Susan Elgie, 37 Brock North. Not a question, but a report that a large wild turkey was eating breakfast in our front garden while I was also eating breakfast inside. Didn't have my phone, unfortunately. And second, we had our first experience of a porch theft last week. Not sure who to tell, so I'm doing it here. Maybe you can take the question, Councillor Small-Pennefather, please.
Sure. Thank you very much, Susan, for your comment and your question. I think that people have witnessed over the course of climate change, specific to migratory birds, patterns have shifted, and unfortunately we're dealing with a number of wildlife that we never dealt with previously in an urban setting. They don't always work together. Unfortunately, it's becoming more and more of a pattern. If you might recall, a few years ago, Butters the turkey, who was quite famous in our area, had made some appearances and unfortunately met his demise due to the traffic in crossing Westminster. There's little that the municipality is equipped to do. A lot of wildlife specialists say that you need to leave them in their habitat. Don't feed them. Please don't put out food for them because they'll move on and hopefully they'll move on to a more rural area. So that is the rule of thumb. And with regards to your second question, I did write an article last month in the Informer about porch piracy. And if you've been a victim of theft or any crime in the town, to please call the SPVM at Station 9 to report this kind of activity, and of course make our public security aware as well. And unfortunately, this is now become something that's been going on, a trend as well, where people follow delivery vehicles and then will take or snatch your package very quickly. So please, if you're not home, to make alternate delivery arrangements to try to avoid these kinds of circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather, and thank you for your question or your notes, Ms. Susan Elgie. Next question comes from Calvin Leung, 40 Brock South. Hello, are there plans to have a Bixi station installed near our train station in the plans for the near our train station in the plans for the Sherbrooke redevelopment? The Sherbrooke redevelopment, all of that takes place on the NDG side. So I don't know if NDG has any plans to include a Bixi station there. 6 or 7 years ago, when I was sitting on the STM, who was kind of piloting the Bixi program at the time, to buy a Bixi station, required an initial outlay back then of $125,000. So I'm not sure that the town is in that position to do something like that, but that's not to say that NDG won't, like on their side of the line. So I don't have a clear answer for you, Mr. Leung, whether or not there are any plans. We're actually trying to plan a meeting now with the mayor from Côte-Neige NDG, and we'll see if they have any plans to bring a Bixi station there. It's a fair question. Thank you very much for your question, Calvin Leung. Next question comes from Alessandra Cesare, 414 Hudson. It was recently brought to my attention that some Montreal boroughs provide grants to buy sustainable menstrual products, such as washable menstrual underwear and sanitary napkins. Montreal-West is not part of this. Is this something that is being looked into, considered, and if not, how can this move forward? Thank you very much. Before I pass it on to Councillor Yulin, just to bring to your attention, Ms. Chesry, that Montreal-West is not a borough of Montreal, so we're two completely different entities. And I don't know if any of the demerged towns are doing anything, but I'll pass it on to Councillor Yulin, please.
Thanks very much for your question. It's a good question. We're currently developing a waste management action plan, and that was one of the suggestions actually within it that we are having to look at. So I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. It certainly has pardon me, some merit. I know that it's going on in other towns as well. So thanks for your question. We'll definitely put it on the list of things to look into. Thanks very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin, and thanks, Ms. Chesry. The next question was going to be Mr. Soden, but Mr. Soden asked it in person. Question comes from Karen Donnelly, 195 Wolseley North. Do you know when the bike path at the bottom of Brock South will be cleared of gravel? I realize that only part of the path is on Montreal-West territory. Does each municipality maintain its own section? This may seem like a small matter, but it's actually a safety issue, as the path is steep in sections and a large amount of gravel there could cause a cyclist to slide and fall. Thank you very much. Councillor Yulin, please.
Thanks, Karen, for your question. You're right. It was a similar question that we had moments ago about the land in that same area. So now that the snow is melted, the street sweeper is going out, and we've noted this location in particular. Thanks for your question about it, and we'll be cleaning up that area in short order. But thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin, and thank you for your question, Karen Donnelly. Last question comes to us from Merle McPhail, 8023 Avon Road. The bus now stops almost in front of our door, and 3 huge potholes have developed as a result of this increased traffic. The rocks fly all over the place when it rains, and some of them are big enough that you could turn your ankle, creating a hazard for people who are walking. We have swept the sidewalk several times to prevent this. When can we expect this to be filled or repaired? Councillor Yulin, please again.
Thank you, Merle, for the question. It's a really good one. We've gone and had a look at that, and it's definitely on our priority list now. It's been put right to the top. So this is the season when we start filling potholes. As I mentioned in my report, we can now do it since it's there's no longer frost. And that location is on the top of our list. Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin, and thank you for your question, Merle McPhail. So that ends the public question period. The first public question period. So we return now to the rest of the agenda. Contracts in the town's clerk's office. 9A, participation à un regroupement afin de retenir des services d'un consultant en matière d'assurance collective pour les employés municipaux. Mandat de l'Union des municipalités de Québec pour préparer un appel d'offres commun.
Attendu que la ville de Montréal-Ouest a reçu une proposition de UMQ de former en son nom et au nom d'autres municipalités intéressées un regroupement pour retenir des services professionnels d'un consultant en matière d'assurance collective pour les employés municipaux. Attendu que l'article 29.9.1 de la loi sur les cités et les villes permette une municipalité de conclure avec UMQ une telle entente. Attendu que la ville désire se joindre à ce regroupement. Attendu que, conformément à la loi, l'UMQ a lancé un appel d'offres public pour octroyer le contrat conformément à la loi. Attendu que ce processus est assujetti au règlement numéro 26 sur la gestion contractuelle de l'UMQ pour ces ententes de regroupement adoptées par le conseil d'administration de l'UMQ, je propose que la ville de Montréal-Ouest informe l'UMQ de son intérêt à adhérer à un regroupement de municipalités pour retenir les services professionnels d'un consultant en matière d'assurance collective pour les employés municipaux et confie à l'UMQ le mandat de gérer le processus menant à l'adjudication d'un contrat à cette fin. Que le contrat qui pourra ainsi être octroyé soit une durée d'1 année plus 4 options de renouvellement annuel. Que la Ville s'engage à fournir à l'UMQ, dans les délais fixés, les informations nécessaires de la préparation de cet appel d'offres. Numéro 4, que la Ville s'engage également à respecter les termes et conditions du dit contrat comme si elle avait contracté directement avec le consultant à qui le contrat pourra ainsi être octroyé. Et numéro 5, que la Ville accepte de payer à l'UMQ les frais de gestion s'enlèvent le 1,15% des primes totales versées par la municipalité.
Merci, la conseillère Small Pennyfather. Je peux avoir de l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Yulin. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît?
Oui.
Parfait, merci. Just to give you an idea, the UMQ is the Union of Quebec Municipalities, and we go to them often for group purchases. So we're mandating the UMQ to have a consultant who will go out and do the homework for us to find, support the UMQ when they're going out for a call for tenders, to see what the needs are of all the municipalities that are interested in this group purchase. So that's what this mandate is about. That's what this motion is about. The second motion, 9B, intermunicipal agreement with the City of Montreal concerning the installation of upgraded water meters for institutional, commercial, and industrial establishments in Montreal-West.
Whereas the agglomeration of Montreal, in accordance with government requirements, has adopted a bylaw to compel the installation of water meters up to defined standards in non-residential buildings. Whereas the agglomeration has delegated to related municipalities in another bylaw the responsibility of performing the necessary task in their respective territory. Whereas the town of Montreal-West is seeking the technical assistance of the City of Montreal to carry out certain work and provide services in order to achieve that goal. Whereas an intermunicipal agreement has been drafted by the City of Montreal to determine both parties' obligations and responsibilities. Therefore, I move that the town accept the terms and conditions of the proposed intermunicipal agreement with the City of Montreal concerning the installation of water meters for institutional, commercial, and industrial establishments. Accept Article 4I and 5C, which it requests to be withdrawn from the said agreement. And secondly, that the mayor and the town clerk be authorized to sign this agreement.
Thank you very much. Councillor Torres, can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I second that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. All in favor, please.
Yeah,
Aye.
aye.
So just to give you an idea, this is the meters in the non-residential buildings. So that's the commercial and industrial. The meters need to be brought up to date. So what we're doing is we're mandating the City of Montreal to manage the work that the owners of the properties need to do on their buildings. Number 3, transfer agreement with the Ministère des Transports du Québec for a tract of land and a deed of easement at Ronald Park.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the Ministère des Transports du Québec, MTQ, contacted several landowners on the south side of Ronald Drive about purchasing pieces of land required for the purposes of the Turcotte project in the back of their properties. Whereas the MTQ notified the town that it needed to acquire a small section of Ronald Park as a perpetual servitude for the installation and maintenance of a rigid insulator in another section, and to regularize the temporary occupation of the park during the work. Whereas negotiations ensued to find an amicable agreement, therefore I move that the town of Montreal-West agree to sell lot 5903679 to the MTQ. That is a piece of land of approximately 66.6 square meters. And secondly, that the town agree to assign a perpetual construction easement on a part of the lot 5903678 for the installation and maintenance of a rigid insulator. That is a piece of land of approximately 105.2 square meters. Scroll down. Thirdly, that the town ratify the assignment to the MTQ of a temporary construction easement on the part of that same lot in 2015. That is a piece of land approximately 805.1 square meters for a period of 7 months. 4, that the sale price, including the temporary and perpetual easement, be $10,000 before applicable taxes, if any. 5, that all professional fees and other costs related to the work, contract, or agreement be assumed by the MTQ, including, without limitation, the surveying, notary, subdivision, and registration as specified in the appendix to the agreement mentioned hereafter. 6, that one of the conditions on the easement be that the MTQ shall make sure that the site is restored to its original state after the work, as specified in Appendix A to the administrative agreement reference number 6, 2015 4004. And 7th, that the mayor and the town clerk be authorized to sign any necessary documents on the behalf of the town to implement this resolution, including a notarized agreement to complete the file for the land publicity purposes. And 8, that resolution 2015-1016-003 be repealed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And this is work that's already been done. It's a little bit of work off the back of Ronald Drive Park going down to, basically it's to put up the sound wall, or not the sound wall, the retaining wall that's back there. This work was completed. They redid our park and everything like that, so they just needed a modification on the resolution. Number 10, approval of finances and disbursements. 10A, approval of disbursements for the period of March 26th to April 20th, 2022.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that the lists of accounts payable from March 26th to April 20th, 2022, totaling $69.06 be approved and paid as listed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Delegation of powers for the month of April 2022.
I move that we approve the report of the Director General concerning the exercise of powers delegated under bylaw number 2005-002 for the month of April 2022.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Certificat d'investissement de RBC.
Oui, je propose que le Conseil ratifie les décisions administratives prises par la trésorière le 22 avril 2022 d'encasser 5 millions dollars placés en vertu de la résolution 20220328 trait d'union 008 et d'investir 3,5 millions dans un certificat garanti auprès de la Banque royale du Canada pour la durée de 60 jours, d'intérêt annuel de 1,63%.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Yulin. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît?
Oui.
Oui.
Merci. What our treasurer did is whenever we have money sitting in the bank, she ties some of it up in guaranteed certificates, and so she's moving some that we had put away, and she's putting it into a higher rate, one at 1.63%. The Urban Department, Site Planning, Projects and Architectural Integration Program.
I move to acknowledge receipt of the minutes of a meeting held by the Planning Advisory Committee, PAC, on April 20th, 2022. To approve as presented under the SPIP the following plans submitted to this meeting in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 17 Valentine South. Replacement of the garage door, installation of gutters, and installation of window shutters on the front facade window. 67 Strather North. Reconstruction of the chimney from the roof line to the crown. 77 Brock North, replacement of the front door. 47 Valentine North, replacement of one window. 61 Brock North, replacement of cladding material, windows and doors with modification to openings, and replacement of the front stairs, landing and railings. Third, to approve with conditions under the SPAIP the following plans submitted to this meeting in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 64 Valentine North, replacement of the garage door. 160 Westminster North, replacement of 20 windows and a patio door. Fourth, to defer the examination of the following plans to the next meeting of this council in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 154 Valentine North, replacement of the front door. 160 Westminster North, replacement of the front door, one window, and the roof cladding.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. I just want to correct something on number 2. The address was 43 Ballantyne North. Okay?
Okay.
Can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next one is le chemin de fer Canadian Pacific bail de terrain pour le dépôt de neige.
Oui, Monsieur le maire. Entendu que la Ville utilise présentement comme lieu de disposition des neiges usées un terrain situé derrière l'aréna de l'édifice des travaux publics sur Bedbrook et qui est la propriété de la compagnie Chemin de fer canadien Pacifique. Attendu que la compagnie a offert à la Ville de conclure une nouvelle entente, considérant que la bail en cours se termine le 30 avril 2022. Je propose que la Ville de Montréal-Ouest accepte les conditions de ce bail avec la compagnie Chemin de fer canadien Pacifique pour le terrain mentionné au préambule. Que la durée de nouveau bail soit les 3 ans à compter de 1er mai 2022. Numéro 3, que le loyer annuel soit de 32 500 $ plus de taxes applicables avec augmentation au taux de 5% au 1er mai chaque année à compter de 2023. Numéro 4, que le maire et le greffier soient autorisés à signer les documents relatifs à cette entente de location au nom de la Ville. Et numéro 5, que cette dépense soit imputée au poste budgétaire 02 Tradignon 320 Tradignon 00 Tradignon 599.
Merci, la conseillère Small-Pennefather. Je peux voir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Yulin. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît?
Oui.
Merci. So this is just our land, this is a motion that we put out every few years. It's to rent from the Canadian Pacific, the snow dump that's behind the arena. Nothing under human resources, appointments, or now we're at deposited documents. So I'm hereby depositing the financial statements for 2021. And I'm just going to go over some of the highlights. This report is a summary of the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021. The external auditor gave an unqualified opinion, meaning that the statements accurately reflect the financial situation of the town with no exceptions or concerns. The results showed an operating surplus of $826,508, which is 5.03% of the total budget. Revenues were $1,030,734 over budget, mainly due to $622,000 duties on transfers due to an increase in home sales and sales prices, $122,000 salary reimbursements received from the Emergency Measures Coordination Center for employees assigned to the COVID tasks, $100,000 building and snow clearing permits and dog licenses, $58,000 in lieu of taxes and property taxes due to home improvement, $58,000 water tax due to high water consumption, and $70,000 for other revenues. On the expense side, total operating expenses were $204,000 over budget. Savings were realized in the following areas: $101,000 in administrative expenses due mainly to the legal claims, legal fees, and office expenses. $62,000 in remuneration as a decrease in payroll related to the pool and day camp and recreation programs. $61,000 in public work expenses related mainly to lower snow removal costs, $59,000 in interest expense due to a decrease in borrowing, $43,000 in recreation expenses related to the arenas, parks, and program costs, and $36,000 in public security expenses due to lower dispatch fees. These savings were offset by additional expenses incurred in the following areas: $11,000 in building inspection due to the savings on consultant fees, $555,000 in capital expenses as part of the pay-as-you-go program financing as follows: $350,000 for public works and town hall roof repairs, $125,000 partial financing of infrastructure projects for the new rec center, Courtney Avenue traffic lights, Avon traffic lights, and Davies Park, and $80,000 buildings, park, and improvements, and our IT infrastructure. In addition to this, and continuing with our infrastructure renewal program, a major capital investment of $2.33 million was spent on road and water infrastructure work on Fenwick, and $363,000 on road repair work on Avon. At the year end, the town's net debt stood at $13.3 million, with an unappropriated surplus of $3.7 million. Thank you very much. And now we move on to the second question period, and these are for questions that are sent along. If there are none from the room, then there's none that were sent to us via the website either. So if I could have somebody proposer la levée de la séance, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose de lever la séance.
Merci, la conseillère Yulin. Je peux voir l'appui, s'il vous plaît.
Je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Merci. Alors, la réunion a été finie. Merci d'avoir assisté avec nous ce soir. For those of you that came out tonight, thank you for checking out. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see each other